Horns Up would like to pay tribute to Eddie Van Halen. EVH, thank you for all the memories. Your music is your living legacy and will continue to inspire a lot of us. Welcome to Horns Up. I'm Animesh and Peter. We've got a great interview today with Serena from Svalbard. Now, that's a name I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot about if you haven't already, because their third album, When I Die Will I Get Better, released a couple of weeks ago, and it's an absolute banger and one which will surely make quite a few of the year's best lists. It's almost that time again.
Yeah, I can't believe it, man. It's already been we're 10 months into the year already.
Yeah,
But
time's passing by.
yeah, when I die, will it get better is an absolute banger of an album, if I may say. I mean, it is so intense, and from the first minute itself, it hits you, man. It there's no like warning or nothing. I think the album should come with like a warning, like
Parental advisory.
more like this is gonna like smash your face in kind of warning.
Anyways, here's that interview. Let's fucking go.
Hi, Serena. Welcome to Horns Up.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah. So, first of all, congratulations on your latest album, When I Die, Will It Get Better? How are you doing today?
Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really relieved that the album is finally out, and I'm really pleased with the reactions that people are having to the record, and the reviews have been really good. So, yeah, it's a weight off my mind, because I think as an artist you always worry that what you're putting out might not be good enough. So it's nice to see people enjoying the record.
Okay. Before we dive into the music, of course, we'd like to begin with a question about the whole Holy Roar collapse. Of course, we heard about what happened at Holy Roar, and that's despicable, really. Also because of the jolt it must have thrown at all the bands. We don't want to get into what happened at Holy Roar. Instead, can you tell us how the move to Church Road Records happened? In the sense, can you give us an idea of the challenges and the work it took to release When I Die, Will It Get Better? Because this entire thing happened, say, just 20 days before the release date.
Yeah, it was very stressful. Basically, how we came about with moving to Church Road Records was Justine Jones from Employed to Serve was our label manager when we were assigned to Holy Roar. She was the one that we worked with for like the past 4 or 5 years on our previous releases. She was the one who we were working with for When I Die Will I Get Better as well. So we already had a really good working relationship established with her. And then she mentioned, once all the Holy Roar allegations had come out, she quit Holy Roar, which was really reassuring, because it showed that she was on the same page as us in regard to how to deal with the allegations made against Alex. And then she mentioned that her and her husband, Sammy, who's also Employed to Serve, were starting up this new record label, Church Road, and would we be interested in being a part? And we, because we've got such a good working relationship with those guys already, we sort of jumped at the chance. And she was because she'd been working on the album with us for so long, she was very keen to get it to stick to the release date, which took a lot of work. We basically had to buy back our stock off of Holy Roar, which isn't cheap. And then we have had a few problems in terms of delays with it getting into the shops. So it has been delayed getting into the shops, but the album is still out. And you can get it online and everything, or you can order it through Church Road Records website. So there has been a few hurdles and a few complications. I've definitely learned a lot about contract law in the last couple of weeks, but we've sort of managed to pull it all together. There's been a lot of long phone conversations and lots of emailing, but it's all sort of fallen into place with Church Road, so we're really pleased about that.
Were you surprised that anything in the contract that you guys didn't think was there already?
With Holy Roar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing you guys had to redo all your contracts and terminate that one and do a new one with Church Road, etc. So
Yeah.
you mentioned the things you've learned in contract law. In contract law, I'm just trying to understand if there's anything there, because at the end of the day, this could very well be good information for use for any musician who's listening.
Things like morality clauses. So we didn't have a morality clause in our contract with Holy Roar, which would basically have sort of protected us should any of the people of the label do something which was a behavior which was detrimental to the band's sales, or detrimental to our beliefs and stuff like that. And I've heard since then, I've learned that quite a few bands do have two-way morality clauses in their contracts. But we didn't have one. So it was more with the contract with Holy Roar, it was more to do with what wasn't in there than what was. I mean, it was your standard record contract. But yeah, I would say now, if whenever we would if we ever came to look at another record contract again, we would make sure there was a two-way morality clause in there, so the label could get rid of us if we did anything that was illegal, or just bad behavior in general, or the same could work. We would be able to leave the label if they did something which we didn't agree with. So yeah, that's definitely a morality clause, is definitely something all bands should consider looking for if they're hashing out a contract.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. You learn something new every day.
All right, let's get to the music. I mean, the record seems intensely personal. I mean, we've read prior interviews where you've said it's a painfully honest album. How cathartic has the album been for you?
It's a weird one, because some parts of it are cathartic. I would say the song Clickbait is incredibly cathartic for me, in sort of, being able to express my opinions on something that has affected me and my representation within the media for years now. But in some songs, like Open Wound, it's actually a little bit too painful, and it's not really cathartic. It's almost like a sort of postcard from a bad memory now. So it's weird. Like, I do, as much as obviously I love the album and I'm really proud of the songs, I do sort of, it does feel like having my diary on show for everyone to read. And in some ways, I do regret having like songs about some of the worst things that have ever happened to me just there, almost as a reminder. So it's a weird one. There's some songs like Clickbait or What Was She Wearing? Usually all the feminist ones, basically, where there's a lot of catharsis in like delivering those lyrics and screaming them in the vocal booth and listening back and being really pleased with the song. But then there's some songs where it's more to do with relationships and stuff, where a little part of me thinks I should have just left it in the past.
It's interesting that you mention Clickbait, because that in fact was the base as such of my next question to you. I must say I love the song. I can feel the anger and frustration when you're yelling "fuck off" in Clickbait, and the next thing you know, I'm screaming along with you. I'd lose my fucking shit and mosh away to glory at a gig if this song is played live and I happen to be at that same gig, because oddly enough, that chorus it gave me strength, and it oddly enough also gave me a lot of hope. Now, here's a weird question for you on the basis of my reaction. This is how I'm using the song, right? Is that okay?
Yes, of course. you know, I don't.
I mean, and I say that because honestly, I don't have a lyric sheet with me to pour over. So, um, I understand it's an important song for you, but to me, I'm just reacting to the music first.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. I never want to instruct other people on how to enjoy or react to our music. Like, people are free to take from it whatever they take from it. And if you take, a kind of an energy from that and feel that anger too, then that's great. That's what it's all about, because that's forming a connection through the song. It doesn't have to be specifically, that you've experienced the exact same thing that I have, that I'm talking about in the song. It's just, whatever you can relate it to in your personal life. Like, there's definitely no rules in regard to how I feel people should take our music. It's whatever you want to take from it.
Hmm. It's interesting you say that, because um, the album, just that your second album, in it, you had simplified the lyrics to a degree where it would be easy enough for anybody to understand what you were talking about, right? So, anyways, keeping that behind, I must say there's still so much to unpack on this album. It's one of those which you can spend an entire morning with, especially one where you need the lyrics to pour over as well. I play in a hardcore punk band here in Bombay, and we are more on the lines of the traditional agnostic front or minor threat kind of a sound. And that means we don't sound anything like you as such, but I still think we'd be a perfect match for a gig or a split or something of that sort, because of the attitude and what the music talks about. It's about real things. It's not just about,
Yeah.
fantastical beasts and where you find them, etc. Weird Harry Potter's reference there.
What's
Having said that, what do you think is the role of music in today's society?
Oh, well, I mean, because of COVID, I'm not sure anymore, because this is something I've been thinking about a lot in the last few days. Like, what is the future for music? Because it used to be, I think, the role of music was something that it was like almost a different language that can bring people together, over all other differences, and like a sort of way that we can speak to each other, that sort of rises above any social differences and stuff. And it's also a way that we can connect on a more meaningful level. And then I think that is reaches its height when you have, like, a festival where everyone sort of feels like they come together in a like-minded spirit just through music, or a gig where everyone is showing their love for the band, and that is the epitome of that connection through music. But I feel that live music is really, it's going to change for the foreseeable future. And I'm not sure that we're going to have this same sort of goalpost of being able to all, meet to watch a band play songs and connect through that music anymore. So I think it's going to become, the role of music is going to become maybe more personalized and internalized, as people kind of, they develop their own tastes through finding bands online and stuff like that, and just listening to what they listen to, and maybe not having that kind of, I'm trying to think of the right word, that social aspect of,
Mm-hmm.
meeting fans and other people at a gig so much. I think music will become a more personal thing in the next few years. But yeah, like, the role of it, I would view it as a different language for which people can communicate.
All right. So since we're talking about COVID, right? When was this material written? BC, that's before COVID, or AC, after COVID?
I like that. It was BC. Everything was written before COVID. We were really lucky because we had the studio booked to record the album in February 2020, and that was before lockdown in the UK. So we just managed to get the album recorded and finished before everything sort of shut down over here. So it hasn't, yeah, COVID hasn't affected the album at all in terms of like writing or recording it. Um, the only thing that's affected has been our live shows, and we've had to obviously cancel everything, which is sad.
Yeah. So this brings me to my next question, really. How different do you think the record might have been had it been written once the lockdown was imposed? I mean, I'm guessing we'll hear that on your next album, the fourth one, right?
Well, I would actually say so. During lockdown, I've written a solo black metal album. Um, so I would
Yeah,
say
yeah.
maybe if Svalbard hadn't already recorded this album, then the stuff I've written for my black metal album would maybe have made it onto the Svalbard record, but instead it's a solo thing. So yeah, but that's a lot more my solo record's a lot more kind of riffy and metal and sort of more complex leads, more blast beats and stuff, a little bit more technical. So yeah, it would. If those riffs made it onto a Svalbard record, it would sound very different. I do wonder, like, would I have written a song for Svalbard lyrically about COVID? I'm not sure that I would, because I think it's just such a universal thing that's affected so many people in so many ways that it's almost like distasteful to impose your own subjectivity on it.
Okay. That's a very interesting take. Uh, getting
And we're going
back.
to definitely come back and talk a little bit more about your black metal thing towards, yeah, towards another section of the interview. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
All right. So, uh, getting back to When I Die, Will It Get Better, right? Another track, Pearlescence, that stands out, again from the rest of the album. I mean, I read somewhere that it's meant to be a love song. Is that true?
Yes, yeah, it's just a straightforward love song. It was actually written as an instrumental because all the previous albums we end with an instrumental. But this was the last track we wrote together as a band before we went into the studio. And around that time, I met someone and, just wrote lyrics about sort of finding that hope again and finding, yeah, that love again in your life and how much that support can change you. And I'd sort of around the same time I went to see like bands like Anathema live, and I think they're really good at doing that kind of like poetic sort of love song, but it's like really deep and not cheesy. And in a way, I wanted to try my hand at that, and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. But I think if you listen to it knowing that I really like Anathema, you can sort of hear where the
Yeah, the
influence.
intersection especially.
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm, I'm going to revisit the track now, but yeah, I'm not going to say anything more about Anathema.
I know. Yeah,
Okay. A slight sequencing question, actually. Um, in this day and age where albums begin with, a cold open or an intro of sorts and end with kind of like another epilogue, or as you mentioned, we are used to hearing the instrumental songs that end the albums earlier. This particular album begins and ends super abruptly. Why choose to open and close the album with such intensity? I mean, it hits you just as you push play. There's no letting the audience just, realize that, yeah, I need to focus my attention to this now.
yeah. I think we've sort of, because in the past we've had with like the first album, there's a softer guitar intro, and we're sort of, gently building up to the heaviness that's gonna go. I think we just didn't really want to do that this time. I don't think we wanted to let the listener in gently. It was just straight away jumping in there for maximum impact. And actually, it's one of my favorite things about the album is that it's almost more streamlined because of that. It's quite, it's short and abrupt, and it lets the sort of heavy bits really speak for themselves because of that.
Okay. All right. Talk to us a little bit about the musical evolution of the band on this album. I thought it was a bit more atmospheric than the previous records, and dare I say, I thought it was a bit more technically nuanced and intricate as well. Am I right in that assessment?
I think it's one of those things where you all just grow as musicians. And, you know, we've been playing together, the three of us, me, Liam, and Mark, for a decade now. And we've all sort of watched each other improve our instruments and played off of that. I know me as a lead guitarist, like if I play through the older songs, I'm like, wow, they're so easy compared to what I do now and so simple. So I think we've all sort of just evolved and grown more confident in our roles in the band. Like I think Mark's drumming on the new album is like, it's so technical and interesting and just, yeah, really, it's like he's trying. I think on Open Wound, you can hear that he's really sort of experimenting and with trying out lots of different sort of beats and things, which I think really works. And then with Liam, I feel that, you know, as a rhythm guitarist and a vocalist, he's just, yeah, got a lot more stronger, and his chords that he comes to practice with, his riffs that he writes, they go in a lot more interesting ways now, which then I can feed off when I write my guitar leads. So like, I just feel that we've all sort of grown together, and we've also embraced because we all listen to different stuff. Like, you know, our drummer listens to sort of grindcore and drum and bass and all sorts of stuff. And Liam listens to like sort of more melodic crust, and then sort of prettier indie bands like Mew, and then I mostly listen to power metal and soundtracks. So we all come from like really different places musically, and I think that you can hear we're just sort of getting comfortable with the fact that we're all with our differences musically on this album.
Yeah, it's also it's weird that this is generally a question which I always throw in whenever it's the third album for a particular band, which is that we think that, and it's been a long-standing theory of sorts, or a hypothesis, that it's on the third album that a band actually begins to define its own sound and be comfortable with it.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I work as a music journalist as well. And a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy, and he said exactly the same thing. He said, you know, back in the day when you were given a record contract, you were given a sort of 6-album deal, and the first 2 albums, there actually wasn't that much pressure to, you know, get to number 1 with the first 2 albums or sell a lot, because those were considered the 2 albums where you just crafted your sound and you learned your sound as a band and figured things out. And he said, you know, it was the 3rd album that record companies would expect you to really have sort of blossomed into your own identity as a band. So yeah, you're not the first people to say that, and I think it's definitely true. And I think you can hear it in our new album as well. We've definitely found ourselves musically.
Please link me to that interview.
I will, yeah. It was for I'm Fist. I don't know if you get that magazine in India, but yeah.
Which one is it?
Iron Fist.
Oh
no, we don't.
We'll look it up online. But Animesh is now going to check out Thin Lizzy for sure.
Yeah, I've been having this huge chat with Peter and a couple of other people about how I need to start checking out Thin Lizzy more. And yeah, this one definitely. See, the universe is pointing me towards that direction, Peter.
All right. Back to our chat. What is your ambition for this album, if I may ask?
Oh, I don't know. I'm like, I don't really think about music in terms of ambition, because I am fully aware that we're a band that are probably never going to make a living off of what we do, and we're probably never going to be able to tour as much as we want to do, or, you know, sell as many records as we'd like to do. So I don't even really think about it in those terms. I would say my hope for the record as a creative thing would be that it would make anyone who's suffered with mental illness, or anyone who's suffered from domestic abuse or abusive relationships, I hope it just makes them feel less alone. Like, I hope people can find sort of comfort in songs where it's talking about situations that a lot of people go through but that aren't really that spoken about. So yeah, that would be my hope with what the album does. But, you know, I'd love to say, oh, well, I want to, you know, get to number one and sell out Wembley, but it's just not realistic, is it? It's never going to happen.
Still, one can hope. Never say never.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that last month we spoke to an artist that charted the Billboard charts in US and Canada. So just
Really?
saying.
Yeah, Necrot. Who would have
Oh,
thunk, right?
wow.
Yeah,
That's
Necrot.
Yeah.
They play
That-
old school death metal.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's amazing.
Yeah.
yeah. Right. So this brings us to the toughest part of our interview normally, where we ask our guest, we'd like to play a song from When I Die, Will It Get Better? Which song should it be and why?
Clickbait. Because
That was easy.
Yeah.
yeah, it's personally, I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the guys, but it's personally my favorite song on the album. And I feel, like you said, you can really feel the anger in the song, but also it's got, the sort of prettier, clean bits as well. And yeah, it's definitely the song that I'm the most proud of writing. So yeah, easy, clickbait.
All right, now Wikipedia throws several genres to describe your music. There's everything from alternative crust, hardcore, metal, punk, rock, occasionally post hardcore, post rock, post metal, black metal, emo, black gaze, dream gaze. Wow. How do you define your sound? Or how does Svalbard define its sound?
I personally like the phrase, like the genre, you would use post metal because I feel that post metal has the widest scope as a genre for what it can be. So if you think of bands like sort of Cult of Luna and Alcest, and they all sort of fall under the larger, I mean, you've got things like Black Gaze as well with Alcest, but like for you could also categorize them as post metal. So I feel that I like the category post metal for us because it doesn't, you hear post metal and you don't instantly have an idea of what that actually sounds like. I really don't like us being described as hardcore or punk. I know we have hardcore and punk elements. Those come from the other guys in the band, not from me. And the reason I don't like it is because I don't listen to that kind of music at all. And I know that if I saw a band, being sort of, oh, check out this hardcore punk band, I wouldn't, because I don't listen to that kind of stuff. So I feel like it's kind of a bit of a miss-sell to promote us as that. But then I can understand why people use that phrase. And again, like post-hardcore has so many different elements to it that it's almost a genre that doesn't really words that don't really mean anything anymore, because what is post-hardcore? Is it Rolo Tomasi? Is it, Modern Life is War? Is it all these different types of bands? So I mean, yeah, I guess it's tough for us because we are hard to pigeonhole musically. Like there's not one category that we fit neatly into. But I would hope that, people who would check us out wouldn't maybe worry too much about what it's been billed as and just judge based on the actual sounds. Because, you listen to a song like Listen to Someone and you're like, what's post-hardcore about that? What's punk about that? Like nothing. Stop calling us punk.
All right. I know it's a bit strange and we live in very weird times at the moment, but if I could ask you to kind of gaze into a crystal ball of sorts, what does the future hold for Svalbard?
We have a tour with the Ocean coming up next year. It's not 100% sure when it's going to be happening now, because obviously it's such uncertain times. But the tour is going to happen at some point. It will happen. So we are looking forward to that. We do have festival appearances rebooked for 2021, like Bloodstock and things, which I'm really looking forward to. So hopefully, I mean, at the moment, all we can do is hope, but hopefully they'll all go ahead. And we'll get back to playing live, which is, our favourite sort of thing to be doing as a band in 2021. I think it's going to be a long time before we release another album after this one, because Liam and I no longer live in the same city, so we don't rehearse as regularly, we don't really write as much. So yeah, it might be, a good few years before we release another album. At the moment, our next sort of focus is just being able to get these songs out there and play them live for people.
Okay. Have you guys found a new bassist?
No.
What's the deal with the band and bass players? I mean, I am a bass player and I'm not hinting at anything, but yeah,
I knew this was coming.
I think every band has one sort of position in the band that they just can't seem to get a permanent member for.
I hope none of them are spontaneously combusting.
No, we've had no Spinal Tap moments. None of them have spontaneously combust. But yeah, we just we can't keep a bass player for longer than a year or two, which is a real shame. I think a large part of the difficulty is that being in a band like Svalbard is difficult because we do try and tour as much as possible. And we do, we are away a lot. And if you have a serious job or, you know, family or anything, that can really take its toll, and it's a big commitment. So I think it's hard to find people who are willing to make so many sacrifices to do what we do, because it's, you know, we don't make a living from it. So it's a difficult balancing act to be able to do Svalbard as we are at the moment. But, you know, who knows? One day maybe we'll find a bassist that'll last.
Yeah, there are such creatures in the world. Okay. Completely hopping genres now to the world of power metal. Yes, you are a huge fan, right?
Yes.
How cheesy do you like your power metal? I mean, I'm
Oh,
only asking because I enjoy it only when it's super, super, super over the top and dripping with cheese of all kinds. It's only fun then.
see, I like all of it. I like the really, really, really cheesy power metal, like Glory Hammer and Twilight Force. But then I also like the kind of more technical, sort of really virtuoso musician bands like Symphony X. So I like all of it as long as it's good. Or bands like Lost Horizon, you know, who sort of balance that thing between having the big cheesy choruses but also having really sort of technical complicated guitar parts. I mean, yeah, I like it all, really. It's my favorite genre. So yeah, it's hard to, I wouldn't, yeah, I don't only listen to the cheesy stuff or only listen to the technical stuff.
So the more dragons and more tails, you prefer them, I guess.
Yes. Exactly. If it has a dragon on the album artwork, I'm going to like it.
Okay, you mentioned this at the start also. You're working on a solo black metal album. Uh, so you talked about it also with context to COVID. Was that one of the factors that played into recording it?
Yes, because I lost my job at the start of COVID. I had suddenly loads more time, loads more free time than I've ever had before. So it was time to get creative, and it was something I've been thinking about doing for a really long time, but just didn't have the time to do. So I had a lot of riffs already stored up in my head. And then I sat down and I learned how to use Logic to record the songs and everything, and just started with there. And admittedly, like the first couple of songs, now I've taken them off the album because they're nowhere near as good as what I'm doing now. But it was like a learning process, and I'm really, really pleased with it. It's very euphoric black metal, very pretty, lots of nice melodies and howling vocals. So hopefully it's going to be released next year. And yeah, I'm really excited about it because it's nice just to do something creatively where I'm fully in control and I don't have to compromise, you know, any of my over the top guitar work.
True. And yeah, black metal supposedly like that becomes the genre for most solo metal artists to truly find their sound too, weirdly. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so weird, right? Like
yeah.
generally every solo album either tends to be extremely stripped down or mad on extreme black metal.
Yeah, I think there's something liberating about it, and I also think there's something particularly like isolating about black metal. You know, the fact that
Yes.
traditionally it's, you know, hypnotic drum patterns from a drum machine, so you don't need a drummer. There we go. That's one person eliminated. You know, you can record all
You
the
don't need
instruments.
the bass at all.
Yeah, you don't need bass at all. So all you need to do is lay down like two guitar parts, maybe some synth if you're feeling extravagant, and some vocals. And yeah, it's very much, it adapts well to being a one man per project, if you know what I mean.
Completely, completely. All right. So Serena, here's a final question. You mentioned that you're a music writer, and that's something that we know about you as well. So two questions here. The first one being, what's your secret for making an interview special?
Ooh. Um, I always try to find out personal facts about the people I'm interviewing before going into the interview. So, for example, when I interviewed Harley from Cro-Mags, I found out that he rescues pit bulls in America. And I started the interview with asking him about his dogs. And I find once you start with a few more personal questions, the kind of questions that they're probably not going to get every single time, it tends to open people up a bit more. And then you can have a bit more of a rapport through the interview. And also, I find not taking people too seriously. So once I interviewed Danny Filth, and the start of the interview wasn't going that well. It was a bit dry and stuff. And then I sort of made a few jokes and things, and then it was great. And he sort of was joking away back. So I think you've got to find that level of getting someone to personally open up and make them relax and have a laugh, and then you can really get the best out of it. But you get the same questions normally all the time of how was the band formed, where did you record the album? And it's like all these questions don't really let anyone express themselves deeply. It's just a boring fact question. So I would always try and be a bit more unique with the question writing.
So having said that, did you enjoy Horns Up, or should I start bringing out the Simpsons quotes and anime references?
You missed out roller coasters first, so yes, I did. I was going to say, I mean, your questions haven't been like that. You haven't
completely not fishing for compliments there.
It's I've really enjoyed it. I think you can always tell when a question's good by how long someone's response is. And, I didn't give you any, one-word answers or anything like that. And that shows how good your questions were.
Ooh, thank you. On that note, Serena, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Oh, it's great. Thank you.
I do hope that things ease up soon and you guys get to go on tour, and somewhere along the way, either you guys get to play India or we can come to a gig, and I'll make sure so that you can dedicate clickbait to me and you can see me lose my shit in the mosh pit.
I would love that. We'd really love to come out and play in India soon.
Or we'll tell Robin from the Ocean to bring y'all also. Because we spoke to him also we spoke to him a couple of months ago, but they did a tour last year in India.
Oh, wow. Yeah, tell him to bring us next time. Oh, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for this.
Right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Man, thanks to Serena for putting some shine on us.
Yeah, it always feels good to hear such stuff from the artists that we interview.
Oh, well, that's all the time we have on this episode of Horns Up. Reach out to us. Tell us what we can do to improve this podcast, who we can interview, what we can interview, when we can interview, why we can interview, how we can interview. I think that covers up all journalistic questions as such. Anyways, the basics of journalism. Whatever, I'm just rambling now. So, yeah, we're still at hornsupod.com. Find us on Twitter. We're at hornsupod. I'm at Asmani.
I'm at Trend Crusher.
This is Horns Up.
Horns Up, guys.